Top of the morning and a blessed day to you and all your beloved family. We're here with the midweek message and the two questions that came in. I'll read the first one to you. I will soon be 70 years old and I'm in bad health. I need to know if the program called 5 Wishes, that's 5 wishes, by giving my daughter the power to allow me to die is considered a mortal sin. I don't want her to have to pay for care while watching me die slowly. I'd appreciate an honest answer, not just one to put me at ease. Wonderful question. And I thank the person for presenting that question to us. There's a wonderful book called Being Mortal that was put together by a doctor from Massachusetts here. And he addresses that issue that society has a very difficult time just appreciating our own humanity and our mortality. And that's so very important when it comes to medical issues. Anytime we're looking at a procedure, the correct or the important issue is what is the benefit of this particular procedure versus the discomfort that it may bring about in one's life. And benefit versus risk. And we always are invited to look for what's the benefit going to be for us. Now, coming more to this particular question, for someone who is dying, thank God we have a wonderful program that's called hospice, which enables people to be very, very comfortable as they transition from this life into the next. My sister had ovarian cancer, and she had a wonderful hospice program that made her very, very comfortable as her family were able to walk with her from this life into the next life. And that's a program that really provides comfort and care, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually for the family as well as for the person who is dying. Really, our life is a gift from God, and none of us have the choice of ending that by ourselves. The natural process is one in which we are invited to go along with and to be as comfortable and as pain-free as we possibly can. Worrying about other people taking care of us is a typical response or concern that people have. But how else are we going to experience the compassion of God if we don't allow people to take care of us? There's that beautiful song, "Let me be your servant," that Jesus is saying to us. Let me be your servant. Let me take care of you. Let me wait on you. The beautiful passage there from John of Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. He was their servant. And in our lives, one of the greatest blessings I have in my life is accompanying my mother and my father back to God. And my mother was in a nursing home for 5 years, and my dad was in a nursing home for 2 years. And they met such wonderful, caring people. And during that process, which was lengthy and challenging, I came to know a lot more about myself and about God and about my mom and my dad. And what a great blessing it is to accompany somebody back to God and to take care of them. I remember when my mother was in a nursing home, there was this gentleman who would come in every day to feed his wife, who was totally bedridden and not conscious at all per se, but she could just take some food. And he would offer her that lunch every day, even though there was no response on her part except just swallowing the food. Well, he was a tremendous example to other people about what love is, his faithfulness, his steadfast care for his wife. And he was a tremendous model to me, and I know to the staff that was at the nursing home, They were just amazed at the quality of his dedication and love for his wife, that he would be with her every step of the way. So I hope that's helpful. I'm not as familiar with the 5 wishes, but I'm also concerned about some people dying with dignity. We can always die with dignity, and hospice addresses that, making it as comfortable as possible for the individual. That's different than facilitating or speeding up the process of one person dying. And when hospice uses morphine, that's gradual passing away of an individual, but it's geared towards relieving suffering. It's not to speed up the dying process. That's a secondary effect that at times happens in a relationship or happens with my sister. The doctor said, you have a choice. You can make Mary more comfortable by giving her the morphine when she needs it, but then she'll gradually go into unconsciousness. Or you can keep it away from her so she's alert, but she's going to be in pain. An obvious choice, huh? So I hope that's helpful to the individual, and if not, please don't hesitate to give us a call or to speak to Father Joe. The second question has to do with a certain understanding of ecclesiology and spirituality and grace. Second question says, I was wondering if you could explain indulgences. Are they tickets to heaven or credits towards purgatory? How does one earn them? Are their plenary indulgences different? Are they tickets to heaven or credits towards purgatory? That was an understanding that people had probably in the Middle Ages and carried over well into the 1900s and the beginning of this century. It was, if you did a certain prayer, I remember in grammar school, you would get 350 days indulgences. So that was like a sentence reduction when you went to purgatory. You know, I said, do you think God really works that way? And that was one of the things that in the early Middle Ages, if you remember, that people were saying, well, if you did this or did that, you would get a plenary indulgence. And it was almost like paying for your salvation. And salvation and God's love for us is free. All we're invited to do is respond to that love with an open and generous heart. How does one earn them? Well, you may have heard recently, you can check out the Catholic Catechism, no one speaks about indulgences these days per se. There's a grace or a blessing that accompanies a person's gesture of faith, like visiting the sick, like attending and helping out people who are in need at a nursing home or at a drug center or alcohol rehabilitation center, helping out there. There are blessings or graces that come with that type of ministry. Their plenary indulgences, are they different? A smidgen, you know, just like it's like a little greater idea of grace that you'd receive. And again, you have to kind of think of where people are coming from. That was kind of like a static approach. It was like grace is something you built up like in a jar, and or sin was built up in a jar, and it did this good thing or that gesture, or made this kind of a pilgrimage that would like reduce the amount in the jar. It's kind of a static approach, isn't it, to how God relates to us? And that was something that was probably helpful at one time to people in the Middle Ages with their lack of education and understanding. Just like when you were a youngster, or I was, original sin is a black mark on the soul. Really. And you can ask any of your friends who are doctors or family members, they've never found a black mark on a person's soul. So we say original sin, as a way of describing it now, is an unending tendency to be self-absorbed, to be selfish. That's something that stays with us all the time through our lives. So again, it's a way of expressing the mysterious. So I hope that's helpful as well. Now we have this surprise question. Should I tell him who's it from or no? From Deacon Bill. Next May 22nd, you will be ordained a priest for 50 years. What are your thoughts on being a priest, joys and sorrows, and gratitude? Oh, that's hard to put together. I'd have to make a movie out of that one, you know? Being a priest has been the greatest blessing in my life because of the people that I've met through the ministry of being a priest. Being a servant is one of the ways that you really get to know people. And it has been a remarkable, joyful journey and trip. Yes, there have been sorrows when you see people you love who are hurting or sick, or people who you are close to or their families who die. And you experience a great deal of that. And that's something you have to bring to the Lord in prayer, because that's something you can't carry by yourself, or else you'd go a little bit loopy, right? Same thing with psychiatrists. They need lots of help themselves when they're dealing with some of the brokenness in people's lives. And gratitude is abundant. I'm just so grateful to God for the people I've met, the people I've been able to serve, the people who've enriched my life. It's not all one way, huh? People might think that. But I have been enriched and strengthened by so many people's lives of generosity, of faith, of compassion, of caring for people, caring for their loved ones, just to have been remarkable witnesses that if I wasn't a priest, I would not have had the opportunity to encounter them or engage them. So my heart is bursting with gratitude for all the blessings God has placed in my life. And you and the people here and in the other parishes I've served have been that blessing. So thank you. Thank you. Have a blessed day, and give Father Joe a hard time when you see him, please.